It's Radio Skid Row 88.9 and you're listening to Good Smoke. What's up, ladies and gentlemen? How are you, Benno?
Sure. I was trying to be the audience.
Yeah.
I'm doing good, Eddie. How you doing?
Yeah, good, man. Good.
I had a great week.
Yeah, good, man. No, it's starting off well. I'm getting that sickness, man. I got that mucus in my
I
chest.
just pumped it.
I think you gave it to me, man.
Oh, I probably did, I swear.
Remember that number, guys, 9550-9552. Also, www.goodsmoke.com.
Get as many W's as you can in
right.
there just to make sure.
www.radioskidrow.org. Check out that and check out that website, and you can check out all the links and how to support us there.
For sure.
And also www.goodsmoke.com.au, and you can check out what's happening there as well.
And make sure if you can't hear us completely, on the radio, sometimes you get a bit fuzzy. Maybe your antenna isn't the best on your car or wherever it may be. Make sure to check us out online. So you can go to radioskidrow.org, and there's a little toggle up there. I don't even know what it's a little media player. You can press play on that and it just plays live. You can do that not only on our show. You can do that any time of the day.
Yeah.
We could do Democracy Now! During the week, whatever. Go suss that out. Or you can tune in on internet radio, which is called Tune In, so I hope that's not confusing. It's an app.
Yeah.
You can go to the .com.au. You could, I don't know, they probably deliver. I don't even know if that makes sense.
Right.
But Tune In, so that's TUNEIN. It's really easy. It sounds confusing, but Tune In. Check that out.
Yep, and remember that number again, 9550-9552, if you want to join into this conversation, because today we have a very, very special guest. And before I get started, I'll tell you how I found this dude.
I wish I had a trumpet button now because I just want to go.
Yeah, no, because I was lying down at home. I think it was like a Saturday night, and I was watching Foxtel, and there's a channel on there. It's a community channel, just like us, community radio. That's community TV, and there's a man on there, and he starts talking, and he's talking about the roads, he's talking about the buildings, talking about the tolls, and I got so interested in it that he started to tell an interesting story about how he dealt with the tolls. And then I was like,
You mean like road tolls?
Yeah, road tolls.
Okay.
Yeah, like paying on the road to get to another suburb, whatever.
And
I told Brenna, bro, we have to get this guy in. We have to try to find him. It took ages to find him. It took months. I got a hold of him. Then I told him we were trying to start this show. And as you know, we just got launched now. I think it's been 1 month now that we've launched. And we got him in. His name's Harry. I don't want to butcher the last name, but is it?
CHOUKALAS.
Harry CHOUKALAS. How you going, brother?
And that wasn't him that said, that was me that said. That's how good my pronunciation is.
How are you, Harry?
I'm very well, very well. How? Excuse me.
No, it's all good.
How are you?
I'm doing well, man. I'm doing well. I'm happy that you're here. We finally met, and it's happening, man.
Well, thank you for the invitation.
Man, anytime, and you yourself, you do some media stuff as well. You're in film and you do interviews.
But I did a TV program for about 3 years called This is Australia on Foxtel, and I've done some radio work as well.
Yeah,
But now we're getting ready for the next season for Foxtel.
yeah.
So we're doing some filming at the moment. Yeah.
So what are you doing for Foxtel? What are you?
It's just an independent program that
okay.
I produce,
Yeah.
and basically it's aired I think they do it every 5 times a week now because
nice.
I think they liked it, so they
Nice.
keep repeating it.
Well, the
Shouts out
stuff
to
that you talk about, man.
Foxtel.
Like I think I caught a few interviews where you're I think you're talking to a couple about you're doing some building work for them, and it was in the backyard somewhere. And it was an old interview on the internet, and you're talking about how you can save your money and still build a house and still have a partnership and all that sort of shit. Is that stuff? I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it was a young couple, a very inspiring story actually, and it was incredible. I mean, first of all, they did travel with a motorbike from England to Australia, through Russia, through China.
Wow.
It took them like 6 months, and it was an incredible journey. And then they came here in Australia, and within 2 years, they had good jobs. Within 2 years, they saved enough money to buy a house, $1 million worth of value, value of the house.
I had a big backyard too.
And a huge backyard.
Yeah.
And they, in a way, they've done so well within 2 years. Then they had a lot of issues there with structural problems, with problems basically that, when you build a house, you have to make sure you follow some guidelines. Those guidelines weren't followed. They had huge issues there. They were talking about $40,000-$50,000 to fix it.
Yeah.
But we found a solution for them. It cost them about $7,000.
Yeah.
We fixed it all.
Yeah.
Because the walls they were just moving away from the house. They
From the
had
foundation.
gaps like 10
Oh, wow.
centimeters.
Okay.
Wow.
It was actually quite challenging, but I think I've lost quite a bit of money on it, but I just liked them so much that I didn't care. I just wanted to help them,
Yeah, they seem like good people because
Yeah.
seem like humble. They were talking about how they don't go out much. They just spend time with each other. They're doing the fancy restaurants and going out cafes and stuff like that because that's where most of the money gets drained from families, just that social, that side of the life, you know what I mean?
Yeah, they never bought actually a coffee from outside. They would
Yeah,
take the coffee
That's
with
right.
them.
And you said they didn't have a car, I think?
They were still using the motorbike
Yeah,
to
yeah,
go
that's
around.
right,
But
yeah.
now they have a baby and
Yeah.
they bought a car now.
Yeah, it's a bit hard.
Yeah.
to get around.
A bit
You
more
have to,
dangerous,
yeah,
you're
exactly.
thinking about another life.
Yeah, exactly.
For sure.
Exactly.
Well, they were thinking at one stage to get, the sidecar for the bike.
yeah,
but
that's
then,
right. Yeah. For the
winter
baby.
came and they said, no, let's buy
James
a
Bond
car.
styles.
Yeah.
But I like the sidecar for a little kid. If you're on a bike, because
Can
think
you
about it, I
imagine?
think you'd be hella paranoid as a parent. You got the most precious thing on the planet,
In the back, yeah.
and it's just its belt is this.
yeah, that's
You know what I mean? Like, at one point, you're
Yeah,
gonna
for sure.
get in the sidecar.
Yeah,
I
that's
would.
right. So you're not only into film and all that sort of the producing stuff. You're also a tradie as well. You do.
Yeah, basically, we're licensed builders.
Yeah.
And we do all the normal stuff, a builder would do, but the boring stuff.
Yeah.
But I prefer to do all the more challenging stuff,
Yeah.
which is a lot of problems that we encounter with buildings. And, it's just what amazes me is that most of the problems that we encounter on remedial work, it's because of either bad workmanship or bad use of the wrong use of materials, for example. And I've been in Australia since early 80s, and I can tell you there's a huge difference between those days and nowadays. Now, I think people are more hungry for money. They're trying to just save a buck everywhere they can, but they don't really think of the end result, and they leave people in the lurch, where within few years, I've seen problems happening within 2 years after they build the house or they do the extension.
Yeah.
And we were called after 2 years to go and do rectification
again,
work, with concrete cancers, with water coming into the house, even before they even move in. And we have to fix issues with water going into the house. And this is what I'm just saying to people. It's so much easier to fix those things while you build it than do it later. Like, for example, had a case in Kangaroo Point, beautiful house right on the water.
Yeah.
The people spent a fortune fixing the house, and then it wasn't completely finished, and then water will start coming into the ground floor. We're talking about flood of water, a lot of water, like 5 centimeters, 2 inches.
Yeah.
And the problem is that the builder, when they actually built the house, it was actually built on a rock cliff, and they excavated it, and they didn't actually think where the water is going to go. They didn't waterproof
no
it.
drainage.
They didn't put
At
any
all, they didn't
drainage.
No waterproof at all.
And the job that had cost them back then maybe $4,000 or $5,000 to do, now it's going to cost the poor couple like $60,000 because we have to demolish the whole thing around the house, excavate down into the bottom of the wall to waterproof it and put proper drainage. And that's what I'm saying. I think that the biggest problem it has to do with the authorities that they just let these people to get away with it. And I'm talking about the government itself. I'm talking about the councils. I'm talking about the professionals themselves. You know, either they're the certifiers, the engineers. I've seen during that time that I'm doing this remedial work some terrible things. For example, a job in Strathfield, the people had to pay $50,000 for underpinning because the developer before them, they just built a second story on the top of an existing old house without strengthening the footings. And what happened? Too much weight. The footings actually just cracked, and the house starts sinking. And Brian, it was only just done about 3 years ago before we started. And, they had to spend $50,000 on unnecessary work. Because if you do it at the beginning and you do it right, it's not going to be a problem. But how do they get away? Which council let them get away with that? Which engineer designed that?
That's right.
Yeah.
And, you talk to the council, you talk to the experts and say, we don't care. It happens. What do you mean it happens? It shouldn't happen.
It's more like it's like you said. It's become like a profiteering rather than longevity. You know, having like the house that I live in is an old Victorian house. It's been there maybe 90 plus years now, and the thing still, there's no structural damage. It's still standing, double brick. You know, like there's no cracks in the wall, the floors, and
quality.
you know what I mean. So it's just like, how could you go? We say we evolved, we have adapted, we've gone advanced, and all this, but it seems like everything's cheapened, and it's, the quicker that we've gone, and the more shortcuts we try to find to build a building faster than normal, because back in the day, our building used to be bricks, man, and now it's just like concrete puzzle blocks, and it'll get like 1 week you'll be driving past. Next week, bang, it's up. It's like, how the hell?
See, but for me, like I look at that, and I feel like it's really easy to look at a bunch of money hungry people that are kind of just trying to squeeze every buck that they can, and I get that. I totally believe that there's in the industry there will be a lot of them, because I've met them in work, like when I've worked on places, you know, like you bump into those guys where it seems like they're tight asses, you know, and sorry, pardon my French, but unfortunately, I do feel like that. They're not only to blame. So, for instance, they might, like I think they're a cause and effect. So, like, in an industry where you're having to get paid in 60 or 30 or 60 or 90-day intervals, you got a crew that you need to pay. You're dependent on the weather. You're dependent on this. There's so many variables, and then you get to a point where it's like, wait, I need to feed my crew that for a job that I don't know is promised soon. So how do I get this tender? I'll undercut. I'll try to save a bit of money on the price. Bang, when I get there, we didn't know this rock was going to be here, or the access was going to be terrible. Now the price is skyrocketed. Where do we say, like, and it ends up this juggle, because this person's now not only thinking about how do I build this person's house. How do I build this person's house by taking care of my employees, not having my company go under, putting food on my in my family's table or whatever. I was going to do the George Bush and put food on my family, but you know, like, and I feel like they find themselves, and I'm not saying that that's like a brush you can paint everyone with, but I'm sure that you find this in the industry so much right now, especially with like how expensive everything is getting. Like at the end of the day, like. With the cost of living and just so many, you have to jump through so many loops of bureaucracy nowadays just to put that brick. But where back in the day you could put that brick, you know, now you have to call up this, call up that, and which I understand what it's all there for. But at the end of the day, if that evolves and other parts of the industry don't evolve, you get an industry that you get usually the guys at the bottom having to sacrifice their workmanship as well, because they're not going to get what they're worth at the end of the day. Does that make sense? It ends up being like a survive for themselves now, because they feel like they're being robbed. So now, not that, okay, let's go rob the people that we're building their houses for, but at the end of the day, some of them would probably be doing it out of not necessarily malignant negligence, you know. It would be out of like, no, this should work.
Yeah,
we can save some money. This should work, you know, as opposed to F them, you know, we don't care. It's not, we get the money, we're out of here, you know. And would that be the case? Do you find sometimes where it's like you meet these people where it's like, man, they gave us a budget of this, like they gave us a time limit of this. I had 2 guys, and like, do you ever have that?
Yes. Look, I don't think that it will cost a lot of money to deliver a very good quality job to last a lifetime. Mm-hmm. Because this is what I believe. You do something, you have to make it to last a lifetime. Mm-hmm. And I can give you an example. A very simple thing is, for example, when you do any work with timber, like verandas outside, staircases, now we use a lot of the material called treated pine.
Treated pine, yeah.
Now, we had to do a staircase in Mosman a few years back. And that's a typical example. Actually, was one of the directors of Channel 7. And that staircase was built 8 years before we had to fix it. And what happened is that it had dry rot. All the ends of the timbers had dry rot. Now, don't forget that timber, doesn't matter if it's treated or any timber, it's part of a tree. So it's still alive. So what happens, it's still got the little veins that used to get the food from the ground. Now, when you cut it and you make timber out of it, that end is still alive. It still absorbs moisture. So what happens is that even treated pine, which is a very good timber, when you cut it, you actually destroyed that seal that it has there.
Yeah.
And then the water
The
starts
credibility of it's
getting
gone
in
then.
there,
Yeah.
and basically the dry rot starts. And to tell you, to explain to you, I'm telling you that because it's a very simple solution to stop that and give that timber like 30 years life instead of 5 or 6. And it's a product that we use that it's called EcoSeal. And I'm just saying so people, if
Understand
someone
that,
is
yeah.
listening to us, they should know that this is a very, very important matter. And to get the carpenters and the builders to make sure that they seal all the ends of the timbers that they cut, especially when they're outside into moisture. And that product, believe it or not, it's $15 for a large spray that it will probably, for a big veranda like on the 3-story building in Mosman, we use 2 cans, believe it or not.
And
So it was $30.
Yeah.
And the difference was with that product, we gave the timber 30 years life instead of 7 or 8 for $30.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely
just one
nothing
guy just spraying the
expensive.
ends every time that we cut it. It's so simple. It's so simple to do the right thing and make sure that you get everything built right and that you never have any problems in the future.
Okay, so you're telling me these simple little things are making big problems. Where does that problem lie, though? But is it in the education of these people, or is it just people are negligent and they don't want to do it?
Is it industry standard?
Yeah.
You know, like,
It's horrible to say that, but unfortunately, it's a lot of negligence because a lot of times I talk to people, just colleagues in the same industry with me, and I tell them, about the EcoSeal, and they, what the answer is most of the time.
What is eco?
I said, come on, Harry, what are you talking about? Why should I just put that stuff in there? In 10 years' time, we can go and fix it again. That's the answer you get. A lot of people, they think that way. They actually think that if we don't do it 100% right, we'll have more work in the future, which is not right.
But who says that customer is going to call them again, though?
Well,
You know what I mean?
if they don't call them, they'll call someone else, or they'll go and fix
Where's
someone
the
else's
logic?
problem
Yeah.
that someone else
So
did.
that everyone's indirectly helping each
yeah,
other.
man, because
Yes,
a lot of these tradies, when they're repairing stuff, they're repairing someone else's work. So they love that someone else cocked it up. You know what I mean?
Yeah, true.
At the end of the day.
Yeah, I mean, imagine, for example, doing a baluster in a veranda where you have little timbers, 30 by 30,
Yeah.
and you got hundreds of them.
Yeah.
They probably say, oh, hang on, well, I just go and just treat each end of it. It's too much work. But it's very simple. Just
Put them together in a bunch.
get a bucket and just put the,
All that,
the seal.
Yeah.
Anyway, the thing is, what I'm trying to say is that we can offer good quality work to the owners, but I think that people are just thinking mostly about how they can make a quick buck, how they can save some money. Sometimes it happens that people just get into a job very cheaply and they try to cut corners because they might lose money, and it does happen. Or they could just hit the owners with big variations.
But they're not the majority. They'll just be the one-off. They're the exception more.
Well,
Who knows?
we have done so much work from bad workmanship that it becomes quite common. Fortunately, our days not to see the quality we used to have. Like you said, your house in Peterson, or
in Kensington or like Zetland
you
and
know,
all those areas.
the quality was so much better. The trades people back then, they took pride of their work.
That's right.
And they built them to last a lifetime.
Yeah.
Now today, like 3 years later, and you have to rip this out and rebuild it and do this and do that. It's just like all these imports that we get that they just last you for a month or 2 or 3 and then we throw them away. I think they do the same thing with the houses now.
Exactly, disposable. Yeah.
Last you 5-10 years and then get another one.
Are you Harry? Are you dealing with just residential stuff?
I know we do a lot of commercial work,
As well.
and that's one of the biggest problems because we do work, for example, for apartments.
Yeah.
And it's terrible. We just looked at a job only 2 days ago where they have this beautiful pool area and gymnasium underneath and entertainment area, and the water is just pouring. They have buckets underneath for the water. The ceilings actually are soaked with water, and I told them that it could be a day that it could collapse at any time.
Yeah.
And the problem, it was very simple. Whoever did the concrete, they didn't actually vibrate it properly, and it was actually holes in the concrete, and it started a concrete cancer, because when water or air gets into the steel gets rusty, and then it would just push all the concrete out. And there were a few holes there, and the water basically was coming through there. And, how long does it take to have someone there with a concrete vibrator to just vibrate the concrete as you pour it?
That's that
Yeah, that was,
it looks like a whippersnipper, but
Like now, of course, back in the old days, they had this big machine there that you had to connect to it. Now they've got, I think, like a whippersnipper, which is so much easier. Just go there and.
So what does that do? Like for the people, if they don't understand it, what does that actually do to the concrete?
What happens? Vibrator. Yeah, when you actually vibrate the concrete, you can actually it just gets around the steel better. It's actually
like it grabs it better.
Settles.
No, it just settles.
Oh, okay.
It doesn't leave any air pockets.
Yeah.
And the air pockets are where the problem is, because the air pockets eventually the air gets to it. I mean, you can't put in a concrete slab. You can put rusty steel, but because it's encased into the concrete, oxygen doesn't get to it. It doesn't rust any further. But if you don't do that, or if you, for example, you don't have the minimum 2.5 centimeters of coverage with concrete over your steel, eventually the air will get there, and then you get concrete cancer. And concrete cancer, it's a very expensive repair. Yeah. And that's what I'm saying is a lot of the commercial sector. Let's remember the recent events with Opal Towers and the
Mascot, and there's one in Zeeland just got reported was they've been out of their place, the whole building, for 1 year because it's been attacked by water, and it's been getting the ceilings and in all the wood and everything there.
But even in that case, I mean, water, it's probably the worst enemy of any building.
That's right, yeah.
And I do call it the necessary evil, because if it wasn't that we need it for survival or anything else, it's just useless. Because we do actually fix problems in roofs. When the roof was done only about a year ago, and the whole thing is leaking into the house. We've done it in many places, and that's. Believe it or not, we found, for example, a place in Malabar, a lot of water was leaking in. And you know what? The gutters, they had the wrong angle. Instead of going to the downpipe, they had the fall was towards the middle. They were getting full, and eventually the water was going into the house.
Yeah. Oh,
just little things like this. But how do the owner know?
Yeah,
I mean, they just get, I got a licensed tradesman to do it. But so what? What does a license mean? It means absolutely nothing.
Exactly.
You can get someone that's probably unlicensed and might do a better job.
Yeah.
And this is the thing, that there's not a body to actually regulate that. I mean, the waterproofing, the most important thing for a building is waterproofing.
Yeah, for sure, of course.
And can you believe, for example, the bathroom waterproofing, which we fix a lot of problems like that. I mean, we use a company called Enviro Systems. Can I actually do a little plug here?
Yeah.
Enviro Systems, it's a product made here in Australia.
Yeah.
It's made here in St. Peters. They have their own scientists, and it's made for Australian conditions. It's the only product that is made here in Australia. The rest of them, they come from England, from Germany, from China, but they're not made for Australian conditions. A lot of people, to give you an example, to waterproof a bathroom, which is very important, because if you don't do the right waterproofing, at any time it could leak, and it could destroy your timbers, your gyprock, everything.
That's right, yeah.
So to waterproof a bathroom with a cheap product, from imported, it would be about, let's say, $600, $700. To use the Enviro Systems, it's around about $800, $900. It's probably about $200 difference. But you get a Rolls-Royce instead of a Kia, for example.
Yeah.
And
a Rolls-Royce instead of a Kia.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They give you 15 years warranty while everybody else will give you 5.
Yeah.
So imagine if the waterproof fails, which it happened before, and we had to fight with insurance companies, and because we do that as well.
Yeah.
We take the insurances on and the insurance companies on, and we won. The last case was with Coles Insurance. Which I shouldn't
That's all right. No,
mention names.
You're not trying to.
Okay, actually, if they want to sue someone, they can sue me. Okay, not you guys.
He took that responsibility for it. You had it live here.
We've got it on video as well, so it's all good.
Yeah, but for $200, which you actually risk it, and then in 3 or 4 years' time, you have to actually rip the whole bathroom again to redo it because the waterproof failed. But, can you believe that there is not actually, you don't have to have a license for waterproofing under $5,000? But which waterproofing is over $5,000?
Yeah. unless you're doing a few bathrooms.
That's right.
townhouses,
But what they do, they just put one or two or three
that's
separate.
it. And then do the separate jobs. Yeah.
You know, every waterproofing, it should be checked. It should be, and some of the imports, you know, the problem is that they don't have the elasticity. When there is a bit of a movement, for example, on the slab or whatever, it's the base, they don't have that flexibility.
Is that the imported ones?
The imported ones, yeah.
So the Australian one, if it's made here, why is it more expensive than the ones that get imported here?
Well, you know, labor is more expensive, I suppose.
That's what,
I mean, like everything that comes from China. Sorry, I mentioned names again.
No. We can talk
China's
about
country.
China. Yeah, but like the things from the things are from China that are some of the products are very
It's rubbish.
like they don't survive here. You know what I mean? Like there's no longevity with these products. They just last like a tap. We used to have those taps for the sink, and they last ages. Now my father's a plumber. He's buying them every 2-3 years because the little mechanisms inside are breaking, or they're made out of plastic, or they're not. Like I don't understand it. Why they don't have that quality anymore if we've advanced as a society.
Well, can you imagine, for example, when you do a bathroom or a kitchen, that all your pipes and all your mixer taps are behind some walls, behind some tiles?
That's right, yeah.
That was the case with Coles Insurance. Because they were saying that the waterproof failed and that wouldn't pay the insurance. But I discovered after my investigation that it was actually the shower mixer that failed. And then I contacted them, and at the end they did pay the money to the people. The people were basically the customer was just about to use the money that they had for holidays to fix a problem. But luckily I got them the money for it. But why would you want to put a cheap product to save $50 behind your wall that you will never get access to it unless you rip the whole thing apart?
Exactly.
That's what I'm saying to people. You know, there is good quality stuff. Again, can I keep just mention
names? Yeah, just don't mention any prices or anything like that.
Yeah.
Just,
for example,
explain what you're saying.
I tell to my plumbers, make sure the products are from a company like Reese Plumbing or a reputable company and good quality. You know, we're prepared to pay more money to get the good quality. Because if you go, for example, okay, Bunnings is good. We use Bunnings all the time. Yeah. But some of the things that they have there, they're not very good quality. And for example, when you go and buy a mix setup, which you're going to bury into the wall, wouldn't you want to have the best?
Exactly.
For $50?
Because in 2 years, you're going to have to break the wall again. Yeah.
Exactly.
And some people are putting those, like a false tile where it's not concrete in the wall. They just make a false wall where the mixer is, you know what I mean? But even that doesn't last long, you know what I mean? But there's some things in the trade have gone, that have been shortcutted. What do you think this is, though? Is it these new colleges that are coming in, like, what's that one where they give you your license if you get proof that you've worked on the industry? Gordon Tallis was promoting it. It was like, where if you've worked on the industry for 5 years, you're not licensed though, you work under the licensed person.
That's right.
There's a guy that comes in, tests you, and then he can give you a license.
Yeah, within about, you pay about $8,000 for it.
Yeah.
And then you can get the license.
Do you know what it's called? I forget what it's called.
No, it's still a builder's license, but basically, if you work with someone for 5 years, and then you can prove that you've done that. I think you do a course for about a week. But then again, you get this license for owners builders.
Yeah, that's right.
Own a builder that they have no idea about building, and they can get a license, for example, to build their own house. You know how many times a lot of the repairs we have to do is on owner builders builded houses, because the other people, at least they work for 5 years for someone, they have some experience. But an owner builder, what sort of experience do they have?
Exactly.
You know, and that's the thing, that when you have these certifiers that they go out there and check on the jobs, it should just be more checks. It shouldn't just be, for example, your frame, your steel, how much steel you put in your concrete. It should be how well you waterproof the house, you know, so there's no water coming in from, because, you know, we have water coming either from underground, seepage water, and that could be the worst one, because that could cause a lot of rising damp. And now we have a lot of cases with rising damp, like your house in Pearson will probably have a situation like this, because it's an old English-born wall, probably, and maybe it doesn't have a damp course. So rising damp gets to the top walls. It creates a lot of problems with your mortar, with your bricks. It can eat into the mortar. I've seen places like in Camaray that the whole mortar was gone from the bricks. It was just sand down on the ground. It will eat into the stone, into the bricks. The bricks would just disintegrate. Yeah. And it's a big problem, that rising down, because then it causes mold and causes mildew. And now that's a very big health issue,
Yeah.
because now they're saying that it's as bad as asbestos cancer. So, just little things like this. I've seen dump courses that they're 1 meter off the ground. Just put your dump course right at the bottom. That's what it's supposed to do.
So,
Little
so
things
you're
like
telling me
this.
there's no people that come to a building site and like tick these off and say, okay, no.
No, the certifier will come and just tick very important things, like, for example, the how much steel, if the steel that you put in your concrete or your footings is correct. They will check your frame, the timber frame, for example, if it's a timber house. They will check the waterproofing in the bathrooms. But what do? They just come and take a photo. They don't say, okay, did you put a primer? How many coats did you put under the bedding?
Yeah.
And did you put any waterproofing on? I mean, Enviro Systems, they do 6 coats in total.
Wow.
3 coats under the bedding and 3 coats on the top of the bedding.
Yeah.
And most of the people, they just go there with just a waterproofing without a sealer, which is very important. The sealer is very important. How does a certifier knows that they did the right thing and it's not going to fail within 3 or 4 years? It needs more checking. I think since we've gone now to the stage that the tradespeople and the builders, they don't care about quality. I think that they need to be checked more better. Regulated better, yeah.
Just one more question before we start getting into some music. I wanted to ask, listening to you and just looking at you, you're so passionate about this subject. What sparked that to help people and get there so they don't get ripped off? Or was there a story? Was there a moment? Or was it just something that you've always been passionate about?
I don't know. I'm thinking that everybody's like that. I'm not sure.
If it was, then the industry wouldn't be like that.
How did you get into the industry?
Yeah, like how was it that you passionate about?
It was I was involved in the industry since I came to Australia.
So what year was that?
1983. So I started in the building industry in about 1985.
So how old were you when you came here?
21.
Wow.
Yeah.
Still look good, man.
Yeah, a long time. No, it's just that, sometimes, I mean, I've done a lot of things to do with recycling. Like one of my, the things that I really liked that I did save was Sydney monorail.
Oh, yeah?
Which was, it was incredible, because they were just scrapping it all. And
that's
just
right,
going to get rid of it and just scrap. And I just managed to get there on time. And I bought it.
You bought the monorail?
I bought the monorail.
The one in the city?
Yeah.
Because Melbourne wanted to take it off us.
That's
and
right.
And they didn't want it. They didn't let us.
Yeah, they were
So you're the guy who bought it?
I bought it, yeah.
The whole thing?
Yeah, all the wagons, basically, yeah.
Do you remember that? The monorail?
I remember the monorail, but I don't remember the bus. So, but
I remember. Yeah.
mad.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's the thing that, okay.
So where is it?
Why did we actually remove the monorail? It was working so well. No traffic, It was making money. The government just telling us it wasn't making money. But
That's right. It's
not true. Because after I bought it, a lot of the employees and the people that lost their jobs, they came and saw me, and they said, we're making a lot of money, especially after the Ultimo and Pyrmont area was developed.
That's right, yeah.
The monorail was just going flat out, making a lot of money, and they took it out, okay? A lot of cities, they're paying big money to put monorails in. Was it
Dubai?
In Arabian, I think it was
Abu
Dubai or Abu Dhabi, yeah. They paid $250 million American dollars to build a monorail like ours for 8 kilometers. $250 million. And we had it, and we pulled it down. But why? The question is why? What's the reason why we pulled it out? Not because it wasn't making money, but what did they do in the area where the monorail was actually
what they replaced
working?
it. Yeah, exactly. Because now
all the new development that was there. Maybe we shouldn't mention
we should.
anything
No,
on
no,
it. But
talk.
But I'm not a fan of because I feel like there needs to be a healthy relationship between urgency and legacy. Because if you're too urgent, you don't think about what's this going to do, and when you can't see the future, you don't realize also like what your urgent moments are like what your urgent moments like ripple out to effect. You get me? And I find that unfortunate because you look at the city. Imagine our city continued to have a beautiful monorail. Not saying that I've ridden the monorail quite a few times, but just to think like when it left, I felt like it was like a magic trick where like they averted our eyes and bang, took our monorail. That's how it felt. It's like I found out after the fact, you know, and it was just really.
Yeah, you still didn't even know until now, but
no, relax. Yeah.
No, but so you said you didn't know that it got sold. It wasn't like a
I didn't know. No, I didn't know. Someone bought it.
Okay.
I thought they
it wasn't a big thing, like a hurrah. It was just like trying to sweep it under the rug.
Man. Yeah, and that's a shame.
Right. Yeah.
Well, the thing is that, you know, imagine that every one of these wagons, to buy them today because they're made in Switzerland, they cost $1 million each to buy, a single wagon, right? We had
the wagon
5 trains with 7 wagons each, so imagine the value just in that. Okay, I mean, I sold them on to a guy, actually an Australian guy that has a business in Taiwan, a theme park, and he bought about a third of it, and he just set it up there, and he's using it up there.
Man, nice.
A lot of people don't know actually about it.
Yeah, I didn't know that. I didn't even know it was you, man. That's a surprise.
The history of Sydney's monorail. There you go, folks. Yeah. There you go.
Well,
you heard it here first.
Yeah, exactly. If you just tuned in, we're with Harry, and we're gonna go to some music, come back, and get to know Harry a bit more, and maybe get into why these tolls are happening as well.
So that's Harry CHOUKALAS. Thank you for joining us, Harry. And we're going to leave the lines open as always, folks. So if you want to give us a call, it's 9550 9556 what?
No.
Feel me? I'm tripping out. 9550 9552. Wait, I'll say it one more time clearly. 9550 9552. Too many numbers to remember nowadays, folks.
Also, if you're on Facebook, check it out, Facebook, Good Smoke. And just if you want to
Twitter.
Twitter. But if you want to ask a question to Harry, just type out a message to us on Facebook. We're live here now.
I'm always live here, paying attention.
And if you got song requests, remember to check those out. It's just about to hit 7 o'clock. I'm going to play this one. It's by Ty Dolla called Purple Emojis. It's a nice feel song. I like it. So Radio Skid Row 88.9. You're listening to Good Smoke. It's Radio Skid Row 88.9. And if you just tuned in, you're listening to Good Smoke. What's on? What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Remember, 9550 9552 is the number you got to call to join in the conversation. Remember, check out our Facebook page, www.goodsmoke.com.au, radioskidrow.org. That's all the information you need to know for now.
For now.
Especially
if your name's for now and you're from the islands, shouts out to you for now. We're big fans.
Shout out to all the listeners that are online. Remember, you can check us out online. There's a little live stream happening there. Just press the play button at the top. Or check in at tunein.com and 88.9 Radio Skid Row. If you just tuned in and you're listening to us, you haven't listened to us, we have a guest. His name's Harry CHOUKALAS.
Well, Eddie.
Hey. I forget the K.
No, it's okay. Wait, first, let me introduce my co-host, Eddie the Butcher. Eddie the Butcher, the name Butcher.
Well, I won't translate what chulos means.
I'll find out after.
Hey, no. Hey, so we got Harry CHOUKALAS in the building. Yeah, CHOUKALAS. There's it written for you, Eddie.
No, it doesn't matter, but
it doesn't matter.
About that. I'm a sound guy.
I'm a sound guy. Well, I'm giving you the sound.
Yeah, I got it in my head now. CHOUKALAS.
Well, Harry's really been informing us so much. Shouts out to any people anyone in the building and construction industry, and any DIYers that are thinking in the future of how to invest in building a property or renovating. I'm 110% sure that the last hour has been awesome for you guys. And if you didn't get a chance to listen to that, we're going to have it online. If you can't see me right now as you're listening on the radio, but I'm pointing to the camera. So when you check online, I'm pointing to the camera. Hey, how about that? Yeah. Eddie pointed to the camera as well. Hey, Harry, do you reckon we can point to the camera just to...
Oh.
Hey, he gave us the... Hey, you should see this point. You should see this point. He goes, oh, hey, it was awesome.
Someone is watching me, huh?
Yeah, someone's watching. Big brother. But yeah, so make sure you check us out online, because we haven't launched this online yet. It's not a live feed or anything like that, but we will be posting this on YouTube as a full-length interview and then chopping it up as Eddie the Maestro, the Butcher, does. He'll be editing later. Yeah.
Anyway, let's get into it. As I was getting you in here, was the main motivation was because you started talking about these tolls and what was happening with these tolls on the
road tolls.
Road tolls, yeah. They starting to put new ones in. They're also starting to up the prices on the old ones. What is happening, Harry?
You got a history with the tolls.
You got the history, and apparently you're the David to these Goliath tolls.
Well,
Do you want to
I
start
don't
with
know
telling
about
us
that.
the story?
I mean, for me, it was pretty simple, really.
Yeah.
But I suppose for some people taking the government to court and winning, it's probably a big task. But
You heard that he won.
Yeah, so tell us the story. If
Yeah.
you could you start from the story, like fill us in what happened?
Well, basically, because I study quite a lot our constitution,
Yep.
and it's very important for people to know their rights.
The Australian Constitution.
And I also been a politician. I've been in politics, and I had even founded my own parties,
Mhm.
but they were based on a direct democracy when people actually had the power and they were voting. And the majority makes a decision, which is really the word democracy. It's an
Yeah.
ancient Greek word that it
Elado.
means not elado, but it means people power. So I've been in politics and I've been in media, so I've seen it all, and I probably know quite a few things more than
The average Joe.
people because I've been involved in these
Mhm.
fields. So the first thing that I always do is just make sure that I know my constitution. I want to know my rights.
Yep.
And people wouldn't believe the power that we have because of the constitution. And this is why they want to change it all the time.
I'm sure there's so many people out there. Like, if this was a conversation we had 7 years ago, I'd tell you, Australia, I didn't know we had a constitution. That's how I think there's so many people that wouldn't even know. But continue.
Well, just to give you an example, could you believe that the actual councils are illegal? I mean, you don't have to pay your fines to the council. You don't have to pay your rates because they're illegal. And they're not recognized by a constitution. They're just a private company.
Wow.
So what happens is that you probably noticed the last few years, the last few elections, they're always trying to get a referendum so the citizens can vote in the referendum so we can recognize the councils. Why do they want to do that? It hasn't happened because the elections happen always in a snap, and they never had enough time to do it. They wanted to do it in the last federal election, but they didn't make it. Why do they want a referendum? And that's my question. Why do we need a referendum to recognize the councils if the councils are recognizable by this constitution? They are illegal.
So they're not recognized
They're not recognized.
The councils are not recognized.
by the
by the
constitution.
constitution. They're not mentioned. Then there's nothing there. The councils are just a private company.
So not as the governing body, at least. Like,
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right. Yeah. So basically, it's the same thing with the road tolls. Now, I don't have a problem paying road tolls,
mhm.
but
I do. I'm just putting it out there.
no, I think that the motorways, as we call them now, not
Yeah.
freeways like we used to have them, but
Yeah,
in
yeah.
the good days of Australia,
Freeways.
they used to be called freeways.
Yeah.
Now we don't have any freeways. They're called motorways because they're not free anymore.
Because you need a motor pass.
That's
or
right.
whatever.
But so when I researched it, I don't mind paying the toll as long as because it helps me.
Mhm.
I can get from A to B, and I'm on the road
Yeah, yeah.
every single
the
day. I
time,
can
yeah.
do 200 kilometers.
Damn.
So it helps me to go from A to B faster,
Mhm.
right? So I don't mind paying the toll if I know that it goes to the people. Like I still pay the toll on the bridge, even we paid it off because it pays for the maintenance. I don't pay any other toll. I don't pay any other toll, only the bridge. I
Yeah.
have my tag, and I put it only when I go through the bridge. If those toll or roads or motorways with a toll, they belong to the government
Yeah.
or to us,
Mm.
I wouldn't have a problem paying for them. But they belong to private companies.
Yep, they do.
Now, if I tell you that we have actually paid the M5 with the tolls that we're paying, I think last time I counted it was 4 times. Now it could be 5 times.
Yeah.
We have paid for the expense to build the M5 4 times.
Wow.
My question is, why these, for me, useless politicians, sorry to mention this word, but for
No.
me, they just,
There are some useless ones.
why would they want to just give that to a private company? Why can't we build it ourselves? We can go and get the loan, build the damn thing ourselves, pay the toll for 10 years, 15 years, and then at least we can give it to our children for free.
For free, yeah. But what's the registration? Isn't that paying for the tolls? Isn't that paying for the roads?
But this was exactly my
Yeah,
questions
yeah,
when I start looking at the toll.
Yeah.
I thought, okay, why? First of all, that was my first question.
Yeah.
Why do we actually have to give them to private companies, private investors, and not to keep them in our hands?
Yeah.
That's number one. The second question was, what happens with the money from the cameras? The speed cameras. They get millions and millions and millions of dollars. What happened with the money with the registrations? What happened with a lot of the income that comes from the fuel tax?
Yeah.
We're paying a lot of taxes for our fuel. Yeah. Probably about 2/3 of the fuel price is taxes.
Yeah.
So if we're getting all this money, why don't we put this money into our
infrastructure,
motorways or freeways?
Yeah.
And we can have them for free for people to use.
Exactly.
So these were my questions. And when I questioned the politicians as a journalist and also as a politician myself, they couldn't answer. So I said to them, okay, that's it. I believe that we should be building the freeways ourselves. The government should do it. And we should pay a toll. And when we pay them off, the toll just disappears, or we might pay a small fraction just for the maintenance only.
Mm-hmm. But that's understandable.
And I said after that, when I just saw that it was sold out.
Yeah.
And, if you think about it, they sold the airport, but the Macquarie Bank bought it, and what is Macquarie Bank? The Labour Party. Look at the investors there. And they sold, and the airport makes $1 billion a year. Yeah. Why would you sell the Commonwealth Bank for $5 billion? For example, since 2005, it made $35 billion. Why would you do that? What's happening? Why the politicians are doing that? Yeah. And I question it. And because with my investigative journalism, I discovered a lot of stories of what's going on behind the scenes. I believe that something is going on. I don't want to say anything, but something is going on. So I said, no, I'm not paying the tolls. Yeah. And then the RTA sends me a letter and says that we're going to cancel your license and your registration because you didn't pay the toll. I said, okay, which toll was that? They said the M5, the M4, the M3, whatever, all the tolls that I didn't pay. And then my question to them, and that was actually my questions at the court, was why a public service like the RTA is coming as a debt collector to me that I owe money to a private company, because the M5 is a private company. And then again, going to our constitution and looking at Act, I think it's not Act number 3 about our equal rights.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm just saying, if the private company called M5 can use the RTA, the public company, to blackmail me that they'll cancel my license so I can pay my bill to the M5, I have the same right as a citizen of Australia.
That's right.
And I said to them, okay, guys, you want to cancel my license? The minute you do it, you're going to have to go and collect $10,000 that this person owes me. Anyway, I took it to court. I took him to court, and I said, okay, let's go to court. So... and the reasons were that, basically, that
private company.
I don't believe that we should be paying the tolls to private companies. All the roads should be owned by the government. We can build them. We have the capacity to build them. That we used to build them before. What happened now? Suddenly, no, we cannot build them ourselves. We have to get the private companies in. And these are the reasons why I just wanted to challenge it at court. Anyway, so I took the RTA, the RMS, to court that they wanted to cancel my license. And we went to the hearing the first time, and they actually just set a date for the hearing, which was about 4 months after the first appearance. But I have sent them all the information. I have sent them all the information I had from the Constitution, because even our Constitution, believe it or not, it has, I think it's Act number 112, where it says, it's not 100% clear, but in
retrospect,
normal language,
in normal English,
not
lawyer language.
What it means is that all the roads in Australia should be free for all the citizens to use.
So what section was that again? What did you say?
I think it's Act number 112. Okay. I have to check it out because it's.
But it's in the act. It's in the act.
It's in the Constitution. Yeah. So I sent them all that information. I said, okay, this is what my defense is this. And I had about, I don't know, it was about altogether about 6 or 7 different acts that I was using from the Constitution.
Are you representing yourself now?
Yeah.
Oh, so no lawyer, nothing?
No.
Oh, okay.
No. Yeah. I don't believe in lawyers. I think that
another money pit.
Another money pit. And also, I don't know how
They're a little gang.
If they
though.
really just serve your interest.
Exactly.
You know, I don't trust them.
That's right.
I
Because
don't
they all
trust
know
them.
each other. They all go coffee after their little court
Exactly
cases.
right.
You know, and
Like the
who
politician.
knows what they're dealing with? Oh, you do this and I'll do. But we watch it in movies all the time. They make plea deals and all that. So
That's right.
yeah.
So anyway, the thing is that I did send them all the information. Now, I believe that they probably spent a little fortune of our money to go to all their lawyers and to have a look and see if it was a possibility that I might have won the case. I might win the case. And they probably found that I had some grounds that I could win it. And about 2 months later, I received a letter from the RMS that they actually they decided to drop the case. I don't have to worry about my license anymore, and I don't have to pay the tolls anymore, and my bills from the tolls are gone. I said, oh, hang on. They didn't want it to go to court. It didn't go to court.
So it got settled outside of court.
They settled it before it went to court. But why?
So to this day,
Why?
you don't pay tolls?
No, I don't. I don't have
So
I
you-
don't
so-
pay tolls.
So the Harbour Bridge is owned by the people? Or is that a private company?
It's owned by the the people.
Maintenance.
They're owned by a private company, yeah?
And I still pay for that toll
Yeah.
because I want to pay for the maintenance because it's very important. You know, it's another Sydney icon, and I want to make sure that we pay for that one.
Yeah.
But any other toll, no, I don't pay. If it's private toll, I don't pay. If it's public, and I told them I don't mind to pay tolls for anything that is owned
For
by
the country,
people.
Yeah, that's right. Listen, Harry, I want to stick to that story. Press pause on that. I got a caller on the line. Her name's Sophia, and she has some problems with concrete. She's going to ask you a question.
Okay.
Just wondering if you could answer it for
Yeah,
her.
sure.
Sophia, how you going?
Hello, Harry.
How are you? Thanks for listening to Good Smoke. We've got Harry on the line. You want to ask him a question?
Yeah, great. Thank you. I've been waiting for some time, but it's okay. I've got a very long fence at the back, concrete fence, and it has a few cracks, not very deep. But I was wondering what's the solution for that?
Okay. If it's a concrete retaining wall, did you say?
Yes.
Okay. Look, a concrete retaining wall shouldn't have cracks if the steel that was put in there was done properly. And also, any sort of large concrete walls or brick walls even in the house, they need to have what we call articulation joints, because what happens, these materials, according to the heat, they will expand or retract. So if it's cold, for example, they retract. If it's hot, they will just expand. So what happens?
They were called expansion.
So they
joints.
need. We actually, something like expansion joint. We call them articulation joints.
Right.
And I've seen that quite a lot in houses, the brand new houses, which they should have the articulation joints, especially around where the windows are, because that's the weakest part of the house. And they actually don't have it. And a lot of times I had to go and put in new articulation joints because otherwise they would have cracked. We had a case like this with the Stratford Plaza, which was about a 15-story building. And the whole thing was about to collapse because they didn't have articulation joints. The whole thing has to be scaffolded.
Wow.
And we had to fix it all. It was a big job.
Yeah.
But in
If
your
I don't,
situation,
how will I fix it?
in your situation, you still probably you have to get someone there to just cut some expansion joints in the concrete. But the problem that if you actually have cracks there already, that means that now oxygen and water actually gets into your steel. And that will eventually rust, and it will lead to, we call it concrete spalling or concrete cancer. So it's something that you should have a look at. Those cracks, there is a special method and special materials that basically you can use to seal those cracks. Doesn't matter how small they are, they need to be sealed so the water doesn't get in contact with the steel, otherwise you get concrete cancer.
Is this something that I can do it myself, or I need an expert?
Look, you really need an expert. It's very difficult. It's not a difficult job if you know what you're doing, but you need special materials, and they're not available at. There's only just 2 or 3 places that they actually have them. It's a special method, the special materials, and in order to do it properly, you need to actually get someone that they do remedial work and concrete repairs.
Oh, all right. Okay. So how we will find you? How we will contact you?
Sophia, what you could do is I don't know if you've checked out our website or our Facebook page, Good Smoke.
Right.
So you can go to either goodsmoke.com.au or our Facebook or our Twitter or our Instagram, and we've posted up stuff about Harry. But if you contact us through there, we're more than happy to send you in a private message the contact details for Harry for you to get working on that.
Yes. Great. Thank you so much, Harry. Thank you, guys.
No
thanks for
dramas. Thank
listening.
you so much for listening, Sophia. And you have a great night. It seems like you might be in the car, so drive safely.
Yes. Thank you.
No
No
dramas.
Thank you, Sophia.
Bye-bye, guy. This is Radio Skid Row. If you just tuned in, you're listening to Good Smoke. I want to do a shout-out to a gentleman I met last night as I was traveling home from your house, Bruno.
Mm-hmm.
His name's Bill, and he was on his way
Bill
to...
Collector.
And he was Greek. He ended up being Greek as well. We
Hello.
started mixing up each other's conversation. And also a gentleman I talked to on the phone. I was trying to call up for a camera. His name was Daniel. And I told him to tune in. So hopefully they guys are tuning in. Shout out to you guys. Hope you're liking the show. Anyway, we got Harry in and we're talking about tolls and how he went up against the government and he challenged them and said, are we supposed to be paying for these tolls? And Harry eventually won the case, and now he doesn't pay any tolls except for the Harbour Bridge because it's an iconic infrastructure for us. And
Yeah.
I'm just wondering, how can others not pay for tolls? What do we do?
Well, it's just simple.
Are we all going to go to court, or what do we do?
Well, just take it. I mean, look, at the moment, I think it's because few more people they have done it now. There's probably about maybe 50 or 100 people that
Oh, really?
they're
Okay.
doing it now. But imagine if the 100 people become 1 million or 2 million or 15 million.
That's what. Yeah, that's
What
right.
are they going to do?
Change the
They're
constitution.
going to put us all in jail. They're going to just... Well, they cannot
Okay.
change the constitution unless we have a referendum and the people
It's
vote
in
for
there.
it.
Yeah, no.
So basically, they've left the people uninformed, so they can take advantage.
Well, exactly.
Because why wouldn't you why you know about it? But that's because you dug. But the everyday mother and father that are traveling these roads.
Look, I think that a lot of people are also a little bit worried.
Yeah.
Of
because
course.
imagine, having a letter from the government, the big brother telling you that we're going to cancel your license and your registration.
Yeah, fear
Imagine how
tactics.
people
Yeah.
would just be
For sure. Yeah.
trembling from
It's a lifeline,
from fear. And I can understand that because that's how they work. It's fear that actually gets the people to
stuck. Yeah.
Stagnant or not to do anything
exactly
about it.
what
yeah.
they
Yeah.
what they want them to do.
Yeah.
I mean, look, I think that there's a big waste of money because politicians, like I said, I call them useless politicians, that they have they don't think how they spend our money.
Yeah.
And I can give you an example, just one of the many examples that I can mention, and that's the Eastern Suburbs tram.
Tell
mean,
me about it.
For
Yes.
God's sake, who?
Yeah.
Who had this idea to put a tram into our city? If you go around the world, even in Asia or third world countries, like even in Athens or Salonika, which is a small city of Greece with, I think, 2 million people, they build a metro. What a metro is, it's underground. Now, the building in London, which has the biggest metro network in the world, and that's where it all started, in London. That's where the metro started.
Yeah.
And the first trains were
and
actually
stuff.
with steam trains.
That's right.
On the
I
first
was watching
tram,
that the other day.
metros.
Yeah.
And they're building now 4 new tunnels under the Thames River, and it's all silt. It's so difficult. Here in Sydney, we have the best underground conditions because we have soft sandstone. These machines can dig it like a butter.
Nothing. Yeah.
And we could actually just do more. I mean, how did they do the tunnels for the new tunnels now for the West Connects
Yeah,
and
exactly.
the new M5? Oh, they had the money for that because someone, a private company would be taking out tolls and be making a fortune.
Yeah.
But they don't do it with the trains. And they spend, I think it was about 1.2 billion. It went over budget.
That's right.
And I think that the time it was, last time that I did a report, it was about almost a year ago. And they were about 2 years over time.
That's right. It was, I think, 2017 it was meant to launch. And it's almost 2020. And to tell you the truth, man, it looks ridiculous on my end towards Randwick side. They have all the wires above ground, where even if they just did the wires underground or make it a little bit decent, but it looks too industrial in a suburb where it's just like family orientated.
So it's gonna get that look later on, which
what the irony of it all, it's all going to the race course. It goes all into the race course where the.
It's not irony. That's well planned.
Yeah, you know what I mean.
It's
It's
not
like
irony
it's
at
right
all.
in your face, you know.
But I mean, I remember when they actually cut out those for
trees?
for Australia. I call them ancient trees because
Yes.
they were so old, that's so beautiful.
That's right.
And they had to just remove those beautiful trees in order to put this stupid tram in there. You know, what I'm saying is
does
that
my head in.
anything that is above ground, any infrastructure above ground instead of being underground, it's costing a lot more money to maintain. I mean, don't go. It happened only about a year and a half ago. Some of the walls collapsed in Blue Mountains, and the trains couldn't go past there for about 3 or 4 days.
Yeah.
Imagine the infrastructure you need for those trains, right? Because you need to have retaining walls, you need to have infrastructure to hold everything together.
Yeah.
And then everything, you see, they put galvanized things there, but they still get rusty.
Yeah, that's right.
When you have everything underground, you don't have to spend any more money on that.
You don't have the weather conditions to affect it.
Yeah.
And all that.
And what I was saying is, and I was talking to some politicians about it, and they said, "Oh, come on, what do you know? You know, we're the ones in the know." And I was saying to them, "Why don't we actually just get the whole train system underground? If they can do it in Salonika and Athens,
Yeah, exactly.
why can't we do it here?" And when you look at the benefits, I mean, for example, now if you want to cross a railway line, let's say from Belmore, you have to go to Kempsey or Belmore.
Shouts out to Belmore.
Imagine if the railways line is gone, all the roads can be joined,
Yeah, exactly.
and then we can. Imagine what it's going to do to our traffic
Exactly.
Yeah.
problems.
Yeah.
And then of course, the problems with the noise,
Yeah.
and the other problem, the big problem, like I said, is the infrastructure that's costing us a fortune to maintain. Because it's very expensive.
Because these are heavy trains and they affect big buildings too as they go. Because I see some in the west, they're really close to these units and big buildings.
that's right.
As they're driving through, the vibration and the heaviness of it, eventually after years and years, it's gonna deteriorate the building, you know, and weaken it in a way.
Exactly.
You know
Exactly
what I
right. But the most important thing, of course, is that we can free up so much land. What we did in Randwick and in all these places where the tram went in, we just took more space, important space from the road. We destroyed the businesses that they were there.
Exactly.
I think that I should go and see the business, and we should go and do a class action, take the government to court, and just compensate them for the business that they lost.
That cafe on the corner.
People don't think about those things because they don't know their rights. If that was in America, man, they would have got billions in compensation. Anyway, so what I'm saying is, just get it underground. Get it underground, and we can actually utilize that land that we have there now, that it's just actually losing $10 million every day, apparently. And we can build, we can have land for our youth. At that moment, they can't afford to buy even a small plot to build a house. Imagine all the land that's going to be freed up.
For the test.
If we put our trains underground.
Yeah. But even like they've built all these buildings and whatever, blah, 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 but they didn't fix the roads to adjust to the amount of people that are coming in and that are living in congested areas like the eastern suburbs. Like these buildings there's about, I think, 15 buildings that got built in the last 10 years, and the roads are still 2 lanes.
Yeah, that's right.
Every morning, man, there's not one morning where it's just easy. It's just congestion on top of congestion on top of congestion.
See, I feel for that because then I think about cities in Brazil, bro, where the population is so dense and it's terrible and they're working it out. But we're not planned for our population. Like, I feel like in the construction of everything we're doing, we were preparing for where we're at now and still not preparing for where we're going to be when, I don't know, it's just getting worse. And I don't know.
Yeah,
I feel like we're chasing our tail.
Yeah, like it's like there wasn't a plan. They're just making buildings.
It's not like there wasn't a plan.
Yeah, for
It's
sure.
not
Like think about how old's Brazil? Brazil's
500.
Yeah, and Australia's what 250 almost, whatever. Everything where they built in the eastern suburbs was a glass factory, and that just got flattened out, and then they built the Meritons. It's like you had a free template. You could have done something where it could have benefited everyone. It was a clear plan. There was no buildings. You didn't have to redo anything.
Yeah.
It was just an empty template. It's like, who the F plans these stuff, man? Honestly.
Look, I think it all comes to I think I call it vision. Today's politicians, they have no vision. The only thing that they're worried about, like the Greek politicians, which I know them well, it's their pockets.
Yeah.
That's all they're interested in. They're not interested in the future of our country, or they're not interested in us at all. And I can tell you examples from previous politicians, 100 years ago. Now, when they built the bridge, the harbor bridge, back in those days, they had most of the transport back then was with horses and carriages, right?
That's right.
And they probably started to having, that what you call the Ford Model T4 that there were quite few around back then.
Yeah.
But when they built it, they built so many extra lines to cover the traffic for the future, not just for the next 5 years, but for the next 100 years. I remember the Harbour Bridge when I first came to Australia in the early 1980s, that it was just a little bit of traffic in the morning. That I used to live in Yutra Bay, and it was just a little bit of traffic in the morning. But try to do that now.
No.
Okay, they build the tunnel now, but the thing is, and then you build a tunnel. Why can't we actually do 3 lanes or 4 lanes?
Why is it always 2?
I mean, now the M4, believe it or not, guess what? It's got 3 lanes. But when we build the M5, even these stupid private people that they build it, when they just put 3 or 4 lanes, you can't do it. You can't do it. And it's a proof that they can do it because now the M4 is 3 lanes on its direction.
But all those motorways and freeways, whatever, they all go up for tender, right? And then a company comes and goes for that tender.
Yeah, but the money that they actually pays for the expenses
is from us.
Private money.
Yeah.
It's not us.
Oh, it's not us. So
it's
so we're paying off now.
We're paying off
the private companies.
Private company, yeah.
Instead of being the other way around. Instead of us paying for it.
That's right. They should be paying us for actually taking the our grounds.
Yeah.
So is a private company separate from the sovereignty of the land? Like, how does a private company overrule a sovereign? It's your land. We own the land. How are you letting a private company come dig in your land?
Oh, it's just that the government basically just makes long leases, like things like that. But we own the land, the people, the government.
Yeah.
Anyway, so what I'm saying is that there's so many amazing things that's happening around the world, right? And here in Australia, it's just like we have dug our heads into the sand for the last sort of 20, 30 years, and we don't look around to see what's going on. I mean, the whole world, there's an evolution around the world, and we're here. We're just 50 years behind.
It is like that.
50 years behind. I'm just so disappointed. I was so proud for Australia. We're such a strong and amazing country. We are autonomous. Everything we wanted, we built it here. Now, 89% of our manufacturing just went overseas, mostly to China. Why? What's going to happen now if we have a crisis and the Chinese don't buy our stupid apartments that they're falling down anymore? Where is the jobs? Back then, people could go to the factories and just get a job. Where's the jobs gonna come now? Where they gonna come from? So the next crisis is gonna be a very serious one. Because there will be no jobs available. The building industry and the apartments that they've been building, it's actually supporting our economy in a big way. If that's gone,
we're done.
We're gone.
I think that's like scary to think. And even like with you were saying, some people are even scared to like go against the government, like with a toll or something, and just to speak up against something and say, look, I don't think this is legal. I feel like there's that fear that like, I don't know, that fear everything's gonna crumble. You know what I mean? Just because of like they're not being able to. I feel like if us as people are recognizing that the politicians aren't noticing that obvious blunder or that obvious thing that people are talking about in normal day conversations nowadays, it's not necessary. You don't need to be the most wise economist or politician, or you know what I mean? And you could start like calling a spade when you realize, wait, at no point does that benefit the Australian people. Like not once, there isn't, like, where's the list? You can check in all the lists. Not one area does it benefit the Australian people. And yet that was the decision they went with. that's scary. That I feel like that people lose hope to think that I'll fight and I'll win in the first place, because like they're losing the battle of life day to day. You know, like I don't know. At least
that's right. But it is no. The thing is, it's not helping anyone. It is helping somebody. It's just not helping the majority.
Oh yeah, no, that's what I'm saying.
It's
No,
helping the minority.
but that's why I'm not saying everything. But there's some legitimate ones that it's like, wait a sec. I don't think this. I don't know, man. I'm not going to get into details of like which ones I'm fully on against, to the point where I'm like jaw dropping, thinking like, how is this what we agreed on? Or did anyone actually agree on this? Does anyone in Australia actually know that this is going on? And yet it's kind of like just where I'll find out what Kim Kardashian's doing that weekend. Shout out to Kim Kardashian. I'm not hating on you, but like I feel like people know more about her than certain things that go under the radar that I think should be. Wait a sec, that should have been like for 2 weeks news on channel whatever at 6 p.m. Everyone should know that, but no one does.
No, that's right.
And that's why we're here.
Yeah.
That's
and
why
they keep our minds busy with stupid things like, Married at First Sight and, The Bachelor.
Shouts out to both
now,
those shows.
Facebook and all the other social media. And they keep our minds occupied. And that's they're good. They're very good at it.
The bread and circus.
Because then who's going to go and, instead of just spend an hour on the Facebook, who's going to go and pick up the Constitution and read the Constitution?
Read the Constitution.
On a Saturday night.
Man, hey, I'm telling you, if you could scroll your Constitution up, some people might. It's like, just read the Constitution.
Listen, we've got about 10 minutes, about 10, 15 minutes. Let's talk about quickly this the voting system that you had online, democracy online, was it?
Actually, this is, I just mentioned before, we have a political party called Online Direct Democracy. I was actually a candidate for the seat of Barton in the previous elections. Basically, like I said before, the word democracy means people power. And what we just founded this party, basically, which is called Online Direct Democracy. And the whole idea is that basically the people of Australia will have a say by voting online on every decision that it's taken in Canberra, in the Parliament.
In Parliament.
So the politicians, in other words, they have no power. They're just there basically they still represent us, but they have no power to vote. So, for example, I'll just give you one example. When we actually created also a platform that people can vote. We call it the Polyweb. And I give you an example. We just put a question to the people, for example, if people wanted to close down the car manufacturing, because we closed down basically three
major ones. Was it Ford?
It was Ford, Holden, and Toyota. Yeah. And when we actually investigated, because in a true democracy, you have to have both sides of the story. Why do we close it down, and what's the benefit? So we had basically both sides of the story. And the politicians basically were saying we're closing down because it's costing us a lot of money. Now, when we explain to people that actually that a lot of money that they're talking about, when we worked it out, it was $18 per year per taxpayer. $18. That's what it was costing us. So when we put the question to the people and say, hey guys, for $18, do you want to close it down, or do you want to keep it so we can have 200,000 jobs?
Yeah.
Plus, we can still make our beautiful 3 Australian-made cars.
Exactly.
And guess what? I think that it was 96% or 97%. The people said, no, we want to keep our car manufacturing here in Australia. So this is the will of the people.
Exactly.
But what did the politicians did? They closed them down. And it wasn't just Tony Abbott or the Labour Party or the Liberals. The Labour closed some of them, then the Liberals closed the rest of them. And to me, I can't understand it, because in 2013, Toyota, they spent $340 million to upgrade their factory. For the first time, we're making the hybrid engine here in Australia for the Toyota Camry. We're making these beautiful cars, hybrid cars, here in Australia, that now you can see them everywhere. The taxis, basically, most of the taxis are now Toyota Camry. And why would Toyota spend 2013 $340 million, only 3 years later say, oh, no, we're going to close it down? So I just don't understand it. But you can see how the people power, when people make decisions, how it can defer from what we call the representatives. They're not representatives of the people.
That's right.
Because they're not representing our will. I don't know which will they represent, but that's another story.
So, is this still going, that online democracy? Is that?
Yeah, the party still, it's registered, and we didn't participate in the last elections because I think people need to realize the power that this can give them. Australia would have been a different country if we could have voted on their decisions. There's so many examples. For example, one question we put to the people, it was about the leasing the Darwin port to the Chinese for 99 years. I mean, Darwin port is making very good money. Why do you want to give it away to someone else to make the money?
For 99 years.
For 99 years.
And that's unfortunate because you're deciding for the generation after you already there.
Exactly right.
But you're not deciding for them. You're deciding for you right there and then.
But you know what? They didn't actually give us the details. So when we actually researched a little bit further, on the contract, it says, and if I'm lying, I just challenge any politician to come and hear it. We can talk about it. In 25 years, the Chinese government it will be up to the Chinese government which ships will allow to go into the Darwin port. So that means that they can say the warships of Australia or America or whatever, they're not allowed to go into the Darwin port to get refueled. And there's a clause in that list that we signed. When we actually put it to the people, I think it was like 98% of people said, no, we want to keep it to ourselves. It doesn't make sense, does it?
Not at all. That's what Clive Palmer was talking about on those commercials. He had 1,000 on. He's saying this port's getting sold, this port's getting sold. Then the mainstream got workers from these places and goes, no, what is he talking about? He's a psycho. He's a this. He's a that, and they downplayed it. Well, now you're actually saying that it actually got leased for 99 years to the Chinese. So they've got stories against that. You know what I mean? Like, which one's true? How do we supposed to know?
Well, I mean, the papers are there, and we as citizens, we have the right to actually have a copy of it. We can. And this is the thing about the tolls. One of my questions to the RMS was, okay, I want to see the paperwork. I want to see all the money that we're making, and I want to see that there's not enough money there to build the freeways ourselves. I want to see the money that we collect from the cameras, the money that comes from the registrations, the fuel excise. And when you actually prove to me that there's not enough money to build our roads ourselves, then I'll pay the toll. Because we have the right to question.
Decision. Yeah, it would be an informed decision. Like, you know what I mean? As opposed to, okay, here you go. At least you can decide, okay, yeah, I actually value in putting my money into that. You know what I mean?
It seems like the only way you can find out is to do it for investigating yourself.
Yeah, that's right.
No one's going to give you that information. And if it wasn't for people like you to take that extra effort, you still do it. You still work. You work hard. You work in trade. That's even a harder job at the end of the day. Who wants to go home and start thinking about how I'm going to defeat the tolls? You know what I mean? Who wants to think
but was that scary? Like, think about it. Like, for yourself, did you go like, man, what am I actually going up against here? Like, or were you happy with the repercussions?
Look, I mean, you know, if I had lost, no, I wouldn't have just let it go. If I had lost the case at the first court, I would have just taken further. I would have taken to the highest courts. You know, I wouldn't have just let it go.
You would have been happy to get as much publicity on it as you could as well.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
that's
for
right.
sure.
But you know what? They don't want to give it publicity.
Of course.
Because, you know, if
so
more
share
people,
this.
except for, you know, some brave people like you guys.
Not brave at all, man.
Crazy,
just sharing information.
Reckless.
Maybe.
The thing is, these politicians are
we don't
Aussies as
value
well.
life.
These politicians are Australian. I think what we got to understand is they need to be woken up a bit and put in positions where they live like every normal day people instead of having royalties after you quit after you stop doing politics. You get a pension.
That's a different conversation.
You know what I mean? But what I'm trying to say is that if they only knew like what a mother or a father or just a family or just a single guy is going through every day just to keep his head above water, then I think, you know, laws could change, you know, things could change. But, you know, we're happy to have you in today, Harry. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, it was awesome, man.
Is there we got like 5 minutes. We're going to cut it off before it hits 8 o'clock because we've got another show on. Is there any last words you want to say to anyone? Anything that we should look up, anything that we should look out for the future for, anything you want to tell the young generation, just a message that, you know, that you want to send out.
Well, I suppose one of the important things is that people should know their rights, and they should fight for it. That's what I believe, and that's what I do all my life. If I know that I have a right for something, I'll fight for it. I might lose or might win, but I still fight for it. Doesn't matter if you lose. You still, you gotta fight for it, and you can tell your children, your grandchildren that, look, I tried.
Nice.
That's one thing. I think that another topic that we discussed right at the beginning about the building industry, I think that people must be very aware, and they should, I suppose it's very hard because they don't know what to do. And I think, again, these politicians, they have to actually do something about it to protect the poor people that they don't know anything about what is treated pine, what is an LVL, and what sort of do I put on the floor, for example, a particle board or a yellow tank, or do I put a compressed fiber, and what's actually better for my building?
Mm-hmm.
Because people don't know.
Right.
A lot of people don't know. There's few people that they do know, but most of the people don't know. And I think they need to be protected by those, the minority, because I believe it is a minority, that they would take advantage because you don't know. And if I just put the particle board in that floor instead of putting the compressed fiber, I would save myself, $2,000. But then the particle board will rot within about 4 years instead of lasting you for 100 years. And that's the difference. It's important that when you build something, you do it for a lifetime.
Yeah.
Not for 5 or 10 or 20 years or even 30 years. You just do it for a lifetime. You want to leave it to your grandchildren. And that's what I believe. Like the house in Pearson that you lived in. It's not only the grandchildren, but how many generations they could live in that house without having any problems.
That's right.
We should just go back. I think we need to go back and take some lessons from our past, because we used to do things properly back then.
That's right. Yeah.
That's the Australia that I love. That's the Australia I want back. I want that Australia back, and I'm fighting for it.
Yeah,
and it helps you guys for letting me voice my.
It was our pleasure,
mate. Anytime, man. We
my
love
beliefs.
talking to you, and we really like these are the things that we like to talk about, everyday stuff. Is there any social medias that we can reach you on if anyone wants to get in touch with you?
Oh, look, I do have a face on page.
A face on
Facebook.
Face on Facebook. Yeah.
Face on Facebook.
That's it. Hey,
I got a new
copyright
on
that one. Copyright that one, Eddie. Pagebook.
Yeah. What about the word copyright? In Greece, copyright translates the right to copy.
I love it. Seriously, I love it.
So you can catch you on.
Yeah, no, it's under my name, Harry CHOUKALAS with a CH.
Yeah.
But they can also just contact me through, again, like Facebook on This is Australia from the TV show that I was doing. And actually working on the next season.
Yeah, what do we have to watch out for?
So basically...
what's the show called?
A lot more controversy, like in the past.
What's the show called?
This is Australia.
This is Australia. Okay,
Yeah.
perfect. For you, keep an eye out.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that we fight for is for Australian-made products to be actually more readable, available. The supermarkets to have clear ales, where we have ales in supermarkets for Mexican and Asian.
Yeah.
Why can't we have an ale for just Australian-made?
Yeah.
And then I can go to that, because I want to support my Australian-made product. I'll go there and I will just buy this and this and this and this is Australian-made. I have to look for it everywhere.
Look at the label. Look
at the
little
label,
kangaroo.
And I was going to ask, is the Solutioneers, the website, is that still up and running?
Yeah, the solution is.
Yeah, so that's the solutioneers.com.au.
So we're going to plug meat as well now, are we?
I'm always, man. And we'll definitely do it. I don't know if you know, if you put on your Facebook, and I mean, if you check up our Facebook, you'd notice that I did plug the Solutioneers on there as well on your post.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
There's a little artist and director of the Solutioneers, Harry CHOUKALAS.
All right.
I do my homework.
Listen, I want to do a big shout out to Sophia for calling. I really appreciate you listening. Shout out to Bill that I met yesterday, and also to Daniel I spoke to on the phone. Shout out to all the family that's listening, everyone that's online that's listening. Shout out to you guys. Remember, check out radioskidrow.org and goodsmoke.com.au. Any last words, Brennan?
Yeah, just a shout out to the fam, and the kids are on school holidays right now, so shout out to all the parents that are dealing with the brats at home, but the good brats at home. And also shout out to Tony and Christian Feroz, because they're helados. They're actually in the Cook Islands right now. So unfortunately they're there for Christian's grandfather's funeral there. So love and prayers goes out to them. And next week we'll have a song for them.
Again, thank you so much, Harry, and I appreciate. Hopefully we see you again in the future. We might have another interview. See what happens.
It's my pleasure.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
This is Radio Skid Row, and you're listening to Good Smoke. Check us out next week. We're here till 6. We're here at 6 till 8, and we got the Garner Show next. So check those guys out. It's Radio Skid Row.
Shouts out to Sophia.
And I said that.
Oh dang! I was just thinking about it. Go.
Shout out to Sophia. It's Radio Skid Row 88.9. This is Good Smoke.